بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل إنما أعوذكم بواحد أن تقوموا لله مثنى وفرادا. First, I welcome all of you, dear brothers and sisters, and also express my condolences for this Ayyam al-Muharram. I started in the Farsi lecture with the same verse, and I think it's very related to this time. You know, God, from all the advices, choose this one. And then it says to uprising for the sake of God, either individually, in pair. Individually is individually, but pair is by other people. When you have two, then the 3, 4, 500 comes after that. So I think uprising doesn't necessarily mean rising with arms, but it means doing something for the sake of God. And I think one of the aspects of Imam Hussain uprising is at some stage, maybe it was individually, when he decided to move from Medina to Mecca, it was himself alone decided, I'm not going to do the bay'ah. And then after he moved to Mecca, other people heard about him. People from Kufa sent the letters, other companions joined him. So then instead of one, the movement became 2 or more. So, but the topic today I'm talking is a different one. Why, if he didn't uprise, what would happen? You know, there is a famous hadith, which I noticed today that is also in the Sunni collections. I didn't know that. I know many dear educated, knowledgeable friends are here, and it is in Sunan ibn Majah, Sahih Tirmidhi, and one of the Makhshari commentator books, and they have the full story. So let me just read the hadith. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله حسين مني أنا من حسين أحب الله من أحب حسين حسين سبت من الأسباط. Messenger of God, peace be upon him, and his family said, Hussein is from me, and I'm from Hussein. God likes the one who likes Hussein. They have the story, the full stories that Prophet Muhammad was invited to some house as a guest, and then during that time, Imam Hussein alayhi salam was playing in the streets with the children. Prophet went out to get him, bring him in, or doing something. He was a very young child. He was escaping from Prophet, you know, as the childs do. So Prophet ran after him. He again escaped a couple of times and start laughing. You know, these young children laugh when they do this, and it's funny for them. And the Prophet catch him and lift him up and start to kiss him and said this story. Okay, the hadith is, in one aspect, is clear that Hussain Minni, that Hussein from me, everybody thinks is the biological connection, that the Imam Hussein is the grandchild of Prophet Muhammad. But Ana min Husseinin is maybe not that clear. But I think most of all of you know that the meaning of it, essentially, that's what the topic today is. It means the legacy of the Prophet, the name of the Prophet, the religion Prophet brought was protected by Imam Hussein. If Imam Hussein wasn't there, he has an uprise, he haven't done the action, nothing from the name of the Prophet, the religion, is all activities will be left. All will go lost. And it happened for other prophets, you know. For Prophet Jesus, he did all those works to invitation. Then a person called Paul came, and then we don't have any true Christianity left. I mean, there is some remnant left what Paul in Christianity is. So that's what I want to show today. I know, again, many of you familiar why would have been the case if Imam Hussein hasn't uprised, why the religion of Prophet may be lost, because part of it was the character which now was on the throne, is Yazid. So we know he was a gambler, womanizer, drinker, doesn't care about Islam, you know, so it was, and very clearly expressing stuff which is against Islam. I think this is one of the most clear examples which show what kind of character we have. You know, when the ladies from the Karbala were taken to his court, Hazrat Zainab, Hazrat Kulthum, and then when they go to his court, and then as is written here, as Yazid had them stood before him as he sat on his throne surrounded by his courtiers. He had the head of Imam Hussein decapitated in front of him, and then start disrespectfully treating that head and striking the Hussein's mouth and say mockingly, you have such a beautiful teeth. So you know how disrespectful he is. But then he recited these 6 verses. That's, I think, the same level of disrespect. I wish the first 2 verses are not from him. but it's from a poet very famous in the Jahiliyyah times, and then is this, which was cited with Mushrikeen, and made this poetry against Muslims in the Battle of Uhud. Everybody knew. These are famous poems, like people know Sadi Hafiz. So he used the first two verses and then follow it with the next verses. So, but it actually make the connection so much more clear. He says, I wish my venerable forefathers of Battle of Badr had witnessed the panic of Khazraj in the face of our spears. This Quraysh hate the Khazraj from Ansar. They would have declaimed, praise God and shine forth in joy, and said, Yazid, may your hands never wither. I avenge my elders at Badr. The ledger is balanced. I would not be the son of my great forebearers if I had not killed Ahmad's sons. So he clearly connects the event in Ashura and martyring Imam Hussain and all the Bani Hashim as revenging Badr. So this is tit for tat. This is revenge for that. Ahmad's son is clear who's referring to. So you have such a person on the throne. So we know what would be the outcome if somebody hasn't stood in front of him and at least say, okay, I don't agree. I don't give bay'ah to you. So this stuff you know, but I'm not going to go this line. Because I want to just go another line a little bit differently, discuss it. So it's a little bit more formal. So what I'm claiming, and then kind of we know all that, if Imam Hussain doesn't uprise, the whole religion of Prophet Muhammad would disappear, totally distorted. It wouldn't be Sunni Islam. Look, don't say, oh, Shia wouldn't be Sunni Islam would be there. Sunni Islam is much depth to the rise of Imam Hussain, much more than we know or they appreciate or anybody appreciate. It will be as a hodgepodge of a disastrous nonsense religion, maybe never find in the world. So you can see. So it will be completely new religion and everything distorted, like Hinduism, which may be some true religion before it somewhere in ancient times, but we cannot recognize it much now. Something like that scale. So that's my argument. And then some of you may say, oh, you're a little bit exaggerating. You know, there were lots of Muslims. Okay, if Imam Hussain wasn't there, there were some other Muslims or some other people. The knowledge will be lost. But just I want to tell you what two background condition of what the rest of the story will be. One of them is the graph. This graph I showed some of you in the previous talk. Look, it wasn't the case that at the time of 60 after Hijrah, the time of Ashura, majority of the people were Muslims. First, this is the graph of Iranians. If we look at between 50 to 75 after Hijri, even 5% of Iranians are not converted. I mean, make it the best estimate 10%. So the conversion is very low, especially the heartland of Iran, not the parts of Iranians which is the Iraqi plateau, but the one which is inside the heartland of Iran. Most of them Zoroastrian, most of them living by themselves. They didn't know anything about Islam because exactly the Muawiyah policy and the Umayyad policy was not to encourage people to convert, not only not encourage people, but to stop them to convert. So that's one graph. So they didn't know anything about Islam. They were not converted to Islam already. Actually, the conversions happened much steep speed at the time of Abbasid revolution, which Abbasid revolution in essence is Shi'i revolution. That's important. The outcome wasn't good, but the essence was the Shi'i revolution. And that's one fact. And the other fact is the majority of the greatest plurality of the group with the majority number of Christians, actually. If you go, I mean, maybe some, yeah, I think it's Christians, we can say safely, in Egypt, Palestine, Syria, the Christians were dominant. And actually the backbone of Umayyads, and especially Yazid, was the Kalb tribe, and Kalb tribe was majority Christian. Yazid's mother was Christian. So there is the possibility that Muawiyah would go a form of Christianity, Islam, or something from himself. So maybe later on I will kind of a little bit discuss that too if we have time, not much, but okay, so they have these two backgrounds. But now what I'm going to do is a very different line. Okay, this is the book by Patricia Crone and Martin Hans. And if any of you know Patricia Crone, you know her. If you don't, let me tell you, she was very bright mind, but she was very inquisitive, but she asked, she kind of was such a deconstructing the whole Islamic history. He was found a revisionism. Everybody put a polka dot question. So sometimes I'm honest with you with the day. She passed from cancer. Maybe God forgive her. But I thought that's maybe the time for her to rest because she was very problematic for a long years. But now I'm a little bit exaggerating. I respect. She was in Princeton advanced study. She was very really knowledgeable, absolutely hardworking, but she had her biases. Everything under question mark. You know, she totally wants to dismantle the whole history of Islamic history, all the books, all question marks. But this book is interesting. I think it still is in that line. She's want to put question mark about established Western academia, so kind of put, like as Farsi we say, put more put water in the ant's nest. She was doing that, and then by doing that, he has some stuff which matches the Shia view, and I want to kind of review the story from her perspective. Essentially what I'm presenting, except a couple of slides, is what her sentences is. And look, there are a couple of movies came out, Gibson's movie, and then the other one, Tom Holland movie. She was in the Tom Holland movie. Tom Holland movie is more sophisticated, but Gibson get more wide publicity. All are based on her work. She get the academic one, then the Christian evangelist ran to the bank with it. And so they distorted, but essentially is out of his revisionist, skeptical, books. The other two books, you know, the Hagerism and the Slaves and the Horses, in 1970s she published it. She said, I changed my mind in the late, but I felt, I'm not sure that part, but that doesn't matter. This book is different. And maybe the student Martin Hens, he passed so young, also cancer too, is helpful. So this is what I'm saying mostly is from her, but I think that gives us a very different angle to see what was the situation was. Okay, briefly, she reviews about some idea of the nature of caliphate. Look, at first I say two features, and then we read two stories. With this view of Shia Sunni, and when you go to the debates and entrenched views, Sunnis generally say Prophet didn't designate a successor. And that's the official story Omar had, felt it. But then there are a branch which Aisha was pushing it. No, he did as a successor. It was Abu Bakr. But Omar and many of the main scholars know that's very problematic. But if you go to the common people and now go around to the streets, and by the rise of Salafism, that's coming out. No, Prophet want Abu Bakr, and the order was God preordained. So that's one part. But the other part, which is more important theoretically for us, what the caliph, what the successor had religious authority. That's the whole question, because we say, okay, even they didn't give us the government. Imam Ali is the interpreter of the book and the Sunnah, but they kind no. The caliph didn't have any religious authority. The authority was only for the prophet, and then we'll see through that how the authority was going to be transferred. This is Sunni view, but we know in actuality it is not the case. We have hadiths doesn't reach to the prophet. We have the Sunnah, even Muwatta, the Malik, other one goes to Tabi'in or Sahaba. You know, Omar decides about some stuff like stoning of the ones that are Muhassana or the Mut'as or maybe other stuff that Umar is initiator. So if you go to their history, we know that this is not true. So somehow Umar or Abu Bakr have some say in the religious matters too. This is an important. What is the domain of religious authority, secular authority, whether it's separated, and how it's done in Sunni Islam, Shia Islam, in the time of Ghaiba, after Ghaiba, you know, all the stories could be there. But what is Patricia Krohn is doing and summarizing is criticizing Muslim Western academia. So her target is there. So I have these 2-3 slides kind of to review the stuff. So you see, Islamists generally believe the caliphate was purely political institution. And then, for example, she refers that some people thought caliph never enjoyed religious authorities. These are the statements that she totally rejects. And we know she's right. This is not right. Or some caliphs did later claim such authority, but only by way of secondary development, only with limited success. I mean, this is the whole question we have. For example, in Qajar area, how much the kings have religious authority? Effectively not. More the hand of ulama. But in Safavid was more. The kings want to have, at least Shah Ismail had some idea, but then gradually the ulama wrestled it out of his hands. So these stories are there. Okay, but then she says, in what follows, we challenge the belief. It is classical Islam, Sunni Islam says, no, the religious authority is with the ulama, and these are who know the hadiths of the Prophet. But she says, actually, it is not like that. And then her debate goes actually mostly about the first 2-3 caliphs, which is interesting. If I want to discuss that for a day, for example, Saqifa would be interesting, but we are not going to do that. But the only thing she said, that red sentence I read, it was the caliph who was charged with the definition of Islamic law, the very core of the religion, and without allegiance to caliph, no Muslim could achieve salvation. This is important. You know, that's what I'm emphasizing. The role of caliph is so important that now you give such a role to Yazid. But we'll see it. And then don't worry about what he said about the 2 caliphs or the 3rd caliph, because with what we really care about what the Umayyads believe. Yeah, what this I will read here just a summary of the Sunni view. Practically all the literature, many sources inform us that though the Prophet was God's representative on earth in both political and religious matters, this ceased to be a single there ceased to be a single representative in religious matters on the Prophet's death. Political power passed to a new head of state, the caliph, but religious authority remained with the Prophet himself, or differently put it, passed to those who remember what he said. These men, the companions, transmit the collection of his words and these to the next generation, who passed it on to the next, and so forth. And whoever learned what the Prophet had said and done acquired religious authority thereby. That's, you know, Ahl al-Hadith in the Sunnah was important. We say Prophet said, I left for you Kitabullah wa itrati. They said Kitabullah wa sunnati. You know, I mean, they have both versions, but they change it many. It's not authentic actually, Kitabullah sunnati. But sunnati means memorizing the hadith. And that's the memorization hadith is important. That is the whole hadith important. So that's the thing, embodiment of Prophet, which for us is Imam. So you see, this is the difference. But what she's saying, this is not that what initially was. This is a reconstruction, late Umayyad or early Abbasid, which is she's true. And then she adds, in short, while political power continued to be concentrated in one man, religious authority was not dispersed among those people who, owning their authority entirely to their learning, come to be known as simply ulama. Most Shiites disagree with this view. According to the Imamis and related sects, the legitimate head of state, Ali, inherited not only the political, but also the religious authority of the Prophet. That's true. In practice, of course, the legitimate head of state after Ali was deprived of this political power by Sunni rivals, so that he could only function as purely religious leader of Shiite following. But in principle, he was both head of state and ultimate authority on questions of law and doctrine in Islam, which is true. This is what definition she has, and that's above classical Sunni. Most Islamists, however, but then what she asks, most Islamists say, okay, Shias believe that, but Shias are the minority. Shias are not right. Shias must be deviated with the true idea. So usually when you have branching happen, usually we think minorities separated from the majority. So, and then they would say, okay, I mean, the truth was like that. Even Imam Ali didn't claim for himself religious authorities, but later Shias claimed for him. So some of the scholars say that, but some of them, they notice, no, you see the ascribing religious authority to Imam Ali very early. So then they say, for example, others believe them that the Imams were elevated, get this status Imam as a religious figurehead from the start, but to have done so under the influence of foreign ideas, their model being supposedly charismatic really Shia pre-Islamic South Arabia. Sometimes they say this is Iranian model Shia, but those are uneducated because Shiaism is very Arabic initially, no Iranian. Then they have to say, okay, this idea of Imam, a charismatic person, have political religious authority, maybe come from South Yemen. All these theories which are there. But she says, all the Western scholars says it is she has deviated from the first idea, which is Sunni idea. But she claims no. She claims there is, however, much evidence to suggest that this is a mistake. Actually, she argues the whole book, it is reversed. The original idea of caliphate was very similar to what the Shias had. The person in the charge should have both religious authority and political authority. The whole debate is whether Abu Bakr and Omar were really having this idea of functioning like that. That's the whole book and good for Saqifa. But regarding Umayyad, nobody has doubt. That's what I want to show. The Umayyads believe they should have both religious authority and political authority together. And that's the whole question. If you think somebody have both political authority and religious authority, you cannot let anybody go sit on that place, caliphate, because they must have some quality. And then we have Atiullah, Atiur Rasul wa Ula Amr Minkum. Always she argue this obedience is it's absolute. So the person should have some qualities over there. Have knowledge of Book and Sunnah. You cannot put somebody guy like Yazid up there doesn't know nothing. But this is a discussion. Again, I want to summarize. I'm not going to that line. What line? Kind of the main topic of story talk starts from here. What we are looking is the understanding of Umayyads of the title of Caliphate, Khalifa. We'll see how it's going. So what is in the title? The answer is a lot. These are official. This is the one the kings from ancient times, from Darius, Cyrus, write inscriptions with it. And then everybody's title have something to say. When the guy was an Arya Mir, have some idea. And there is a difference between leader of Islamic Republic and Islamic Revolution. If you say I'm leader of Islamic Republic, you limit your authority mostly to a country. Islamic Revolution, you're talking about ongoing process. And then you have another idea, maybe for example, Ali Amr of the Muslims of the world. You kind of consider a leadership of all Muslims for yourself. The same idea of Ottoman caliphs had. They claim, they believe they're a leader of all Muslims. So look, the titles have lots of meanings in them. We don't want to go contemporary, but when we discuss, if you have the contemporary ideas in your mind, it gets better what's going on. Okay, what are the titles the first four caliphs choose? There is dispute regarding the first two, but let's go with what classical Sunni scholars say it was the case, because they want this be the case. If it was the case, good. Not the case, good. Doesn't care. We don't care, but let's see. Abu Bakr himself, Khalifatul Rasulullah. I will discuss the word Khalifa. This successor of the Messenger of God. Omar said Khalifatul Rasulullah. But then the title was too long for whatever reasons. He decided to change it Amir al-Mu'minin, commander of the faithful. Uthman is the first one, which used not Khalifatul Rasulullah, not Amir al-Mu'minin, Khalifatullah. And that's the whole idea. The main topic, the main point in this talk is this issue of Khalifatullah. What does it mean to be Khalifatullah? What the Umayyads intend to be Khalifatullah. And then Imam Ali alayhi salam again used Amir al-Mu'minin. I didn't find anywhere he used any Khalifa thing. And I think because what happened in time of Osman. And then look, these guys were educated. Don't think they are simple-minded, non-educated. Look, they captured two empires, get all the bureaucracy of two empires, Roman and Persian. All those administrators start to work for them. And look, for example, Ibn Mughaffa, you heard, he was an administrator, a genius, but with some deviant maybe ideas. These are all working. And the Iranians know some Semitic languages too, because I heard some of the documents with Aramaic. So they soon absorbed the system. Then you have the Roman ones, which know Syriac. These administrators are educated, they give advice to this caliph. So you see these caliphs are more sophisticated than you think. Maybe they drink or do other stuff, but they have advisors which are sophisticated. I wanted to go to the main document. We don't have time, but there is a couple of main documents. It's very sophisticated. So, but Imam Ali is Amir al-Mu'minin. And then if you check Nahj al-Balagha, there are letters which he starts. And always start like this. Min Abdullah Ali Amir al-Mu'minin Ella. And from a servant of God, Ali to the commander of faithful too. And then I checked the letters, because most of them didn't have heading. You know, Sayyid Razi doesn't put all of them, but the ones who start with the heading, all these 8, all started like this. The book, interesting, it doesn't discuss Imam Ali because he's on the different line, and we don't discuss Imam Ali, we don't discuss two caliph. I don't want to discuss Osman too, although it's related. So we go to the this idea of Khalifatullah. Why? Because all the Umayyads, all of them use Khalifatullah. That's the big change. Osman started it. And I think this must be by initiation, either Marwan or the other cousin, or Muawiyah or somebody else, some thinker. Let's get rid of this issue of Khalifat al-Rasulullah, Khalifat al-Rasulullah. You guess what they want to do, and that's my main topic too. They want to get rid of name of the Prophet Muhammad, any connection, any legitimacy based on him. So that's the whole project. What's the name? Clean Farsi Muhammad Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Zudai. They completely clean eyes, remove any idea of Prophet. But you see how it works and how it didn't work. Okay,
we take our starting point with the known fact that Umayyads made use the title Khalifatullah, an expression which, along with many others, understand to mean deputy of God, representative of God. Now, we'll discuss a little bit the wording of Khalifa. Look, deputy, what means a dictionary? The dictionary says Khalifa can have some ambiguity. We'll see next page. But let's see deputy or representative. A person whose immediate superior is a senior figure. When you say Khalifatullah means God, that's senior figure with an organization who's empowered to act as a substitute for this superior. This is the word Janishin in Farsi have. Sometimes Janishin farmandehi masalan qarargah Khatam al-Anbiya means this guy is the commander, I'm the second guy. When he's not there, I can be there. But it's not necessarily mean that kind of I'm deputy, but I'm not successor. So let's see the true sense of the meaning. This translation is scarcely in need of much defense, because actually there was a dispute, and that is the heart of the Sunni political theory, that they want to claim Khalifa doesn't mean deputy, means successor, but maybe true for the first two, but even there is that, but it's not true when you say Khalifatullah. When you see Khalifa means somebody who stands the place of another. That is either deputy or successor, depending that the other is absent or dead. Since the Muslims assume God to be alive, Khalifatullah cannot mean God's successor. It means God's deputy. You know, success God, you can represent God at most. Okay, this issue of Khalifat comes from the two verses, Quranic verses. One, two times Quran uses it, but it doesn't use it Khalifatullah, use Khalifatan. One for Adam, one for David. I'm not going through that. I know you can debate that, and that even opens some mystical or what means Khalifatullah and the heirs or stuff like that. We are looking at political. We don't look Quran use it. We look how Umayyads wants to use this word and what they understood. Now, deputy of God is a title which implies a strong claim to religious authority. That's true. That's exactly what Umayyads want to do. They want to claim the religious authority for themselves. They want to completely get the turf, both political and both religious. They don't want to have somebody else have it. And then even let me tell you, maybe I'm ahead of myself, Ma'mun at some stage wants to do that. Ma'mun, Abbasid caliphs, did two strange things. At the beginning, put Imam Reza as his successor or wali'ah, but at the later stage, he wants to curb the ulama, Sunni ulama's power. And then he went to fight. He wants to get the religious authority, but that's another story. I'm not going through that. So the Umayyads, by this title, very clearly, when you say Khalifatullah, I'm the deputy of God, I'm representative of God. So it means God told me what to do, and I can do that. And so on. This is why we are interested in it. We wish to begin by establish three basic points. This is what Patricia Crone does it, and all his Patricia Crones. First, she collected all the examples, his Umayyad caliphs, from the first to the last. Actually, the ones at least rule under them 1 year that some record is left for them, which all have used this title for them. And this is not also is an official title. Some of the titles in Iran are not official. For example, Bunyanguzar Jumhuriya Islami Iran, I think is official, but Wali Amr Muslimin Jahan, I doubt is official. I'm not sure. I mean, the official is the one you write in official letterheads, and when you send it to the dignitaries or the presidents of other countries. But this is official. And then the meaning also was clear. It's not that, okay, I mean, okay, the dispute, Umayyads may think something, people think something. No, for everybody was clear what these guys are saying, what they meant by it, and everybody understood it. And an example, I just give you an example of Yazid and Muawiyah. There are other examples, and you see that the references are there. The earth belongs to God, and I am deputy of God. Essentially means I'm the representative of God on the earth, and Qiyam earth effectively is belong to me. Or at least I manage it. When you have the managing control, essentially you own it. I mean, doesn't matter. You have a foundation, we control the money, everything you control. Okay, Yazid, why do you have separated from the Sunnah and Jama'at? That's, I think, the accusation they leveled against Imam Hussain and his companions who have disobeyed the deputy of God. So he comes self the deputy of God. So now we are dealing with such a guy which they claim the total religious authority, and definitely then they will start to play with your religion. As I said, the Khalifatullah was the official title. Attestation was all around. Now, one interesting thing. This title appears on the coins too. At some stage, they took it off. We'll see later on. But the Umayyads continue to spell out Khalifa as Khalifatullah in their part. Okay, and what is Khalifa? Because sometimes the argument is Khalifa. When say Khalifa, you mean what? Always, when they clarify Khalifa means Khalifatullah, not Khalifatul Rasulullah. So be careful about it. To the very end period, and then some of these Umayyads start to have differences with each other, fight each other. The name of these three came here because actually we have the longest and more detailed documents from the last two. And some of the ideas come from those documents. Okay, these guys are Marwanids after the Ashura, but the argument she used, she said, we don't have documents for Yazid Muawiyah, but these are very generic documents, and it means even Muawiyah and Yazid must have a more radical view than these guys. And these documents means official view of the whole dynasty. You have similar the same for Ottomans. You know, for example, when one dies, the other one comes. More or less, when established, the same principles are used. I'm not going to do the documents I had in mind to go, but some of the selections which she have done, I'll pick it. And then what she says, except one Syriac source in 13th century which called Osman, and Osman is not in our story, Khalifatul Rasulullah. Never these Umayyads are called Khalifatul Rasulullah. Always Khalifatullah. That means the short-circuited Prophet Muhammad. That's the whole thing you will see. They directly go to God. That's the whole intention. No Prophet Muhammad. Directly go to God. Circulating around it, and then we know kind of what happened. And then it says everybody did that. I'm not going to do. Ulama didn't like this. You know, if you call Khalifatullah, this is somehow the topic. Maybe more contemporary relevance too. But it says Khalifatullah is such a title. If taken seriously, it leaves no room for ulama. If God manifests his will through caliphs here and now, there is no need to speak guidance from scholars to remember what the Prophet has said in the past. You see, that's another way. Muawiyah can get rid of those all Sunnah tradition hadiths, and I hopefully can find time to show you some examples. Umayyad took the title very seriously. They saw themselves representing God and earth in most literal sense of the word, as is clear about from some of the example, as a letter which we will discuss. And they use also other titles which reinforce this Khalifatullah meaning. For example, they consider themselves Aminullah, trustee of God, and the same thing. And okay, we shall now elaborate on the Umayyad conception of the Khalifa function with a special reference to the views on the relationship between themselves and the Prophet. Okay, this part I think is one of my heart of the study. I think this one I hope you remember, and this is a crucial part. Look, Umayyads are divided in two parts: Sufyanids, Marwanids. And the Sufyanids are two rulers or three rulers: Muawiyah, the first, the famous Muawiyah Yazid, and then the son of Yazid, which was Muawiyah the second, which maybe he was caliph for a few months, which killed or somehow died because of Marwan. And then Marwanids start, Marwan, and then Abdullah ibn Marwan, and so on. What happens between these two, or what caused effectively the transition from Sufyanid and Marwanid? Is uprising of Imam Hussain. The others Yazid is there after Imam Hussain, but you have Tababin, Mukhtar, and then Abdullah Zubair. After Imam Hussein's martyrdom, the whole country got to the chaos. And then inside Umayyad court was a dispute, and then the transition happened to Marwanids. So this transition, and then you will see difference of behavior between Sufyanids and Marwanids, and this difference of behavior is essentially a direct and indirect outcome of the Imam Hussain uprising. At least you'll see. But let's see what's happening with the Sufyanids. It is a striking fact that such documentary evidence as survives from the Sufyani period makes no mention of the Messenger of God at all. I mean, there is nowhere his name in official documents. As far as they can, they erase his name. You know, it happens sometimes in history. But this is the Bunyanguzar, the founder, the popular. So, you know, that's it. This Gibson guys people use. Oh, there is no name of Prophet Muhammad in time of Umayyah, so he must come. Muhammad, he come after that. No, this is, I wrote even sometimes. Look, guys, you assume these guys, this is what Shia says. These guys are not Muslims. They are hating Prophet Muhammad. That's the whole intention, to erase his name. Not that you put it out and say, oh, we don't see the names and descriptions of Prophet Muhammad, maybe didn't existed, or maybe existed after Abdul Malik and Marwan, or Mecca was, I don't know, Petra, this nonsense stuff. Okay, this is important. The papyri do not refer to it. Papyri survived in Egypt. There is no his name in official. The Arabic inscription, the Arab Sasanian coins only evoke Allah, not his Rasul. Look, these are official documents. People are careful what write on them. Look, the inscriptions in Taft Jamshid, Bisotun, all these places. They're very careful what they write from ancient times, from the Babylonian. This is off because they are there for permanently. This is the future plan, what we cannot conquer. You know, for example, the Ethiopian king wrote the lands which he is the king. But he wasn't the king. He was 200 years ago, his ancestor was. But he still claimed kinghood or rulership over South Yemen. And that's the whole issue of Abraham, all stuff start. So there is not any name, not his Rasul. Arab Byzantine bronze coins on which Muhammad appears as Rasulullah. Then he said, we first thought there are some coins from Sufyani periods which the name of Prophet appear in it. No, they are not Marwanis. Even the two surviving pre-Marwani tombstones fail to mention the Rasul, though both mention Allah, and the same is true Mavi inscription top. Look, Allah is the general name of God. And Mushrikin and the Arabs, Northern Arabs called Allah. And the Southern ones call it Al-Rahman. That's very interesting. That's another story. And then, interestingly, Muawiyah, when start to call himself, or Sufyanis, or called Khalifatul Allah, Abdullah al-Zubayr, when did Uprise, called himself Khalifatul Rahman. So again, he didn't go to Khalifatul Rasulullah, he go Khalifatul Rahman. Maybe he was going to sensibilities of the southern Yemenis. That's another story. So there is no place of the name of Prophet Muhammad. So you see, in the Sufyanids, these are not my sentences. This is Patricia Crone. Honestly, at this time I have easy time. These are all Patricia Crone. I mean, okay. And I find, okay, in the Sufyanid period, apparently the Prophet had no publicly acknowledged role. This completely decleansing Prophet today. This is not to say that he did not marry. Sufyanid period, she add this sentence for the sake of it. Though exactly what he was taken to be at the time is far from clear. But it does suggest that he played no legitimacy role in Sufyanid political theory. Because Muawiyah was in the plan of building something anew, which there is nothing in the name of Prophet Muhammad in it. Any time, you know, the first day you cannot do that. You know, the first day he captured, go to the Kufa, he has a strange khutbah. He said, you do your prayer, you do your fasting. I don't care about your religion. I'm not a religious person. I just want to do administrator, do security. I want to make the roads, stuff like that. But that's initially, he claimed I'm not having any religious authority, but things change. I believe maybe he go to a form of Christianity, I don't know, or a form of religion by himself. His wife is Christian, yes, it has some Christianity, and Christianity was accommodating for them. They can have all the drinking, dancing, all those stuff. And then you can see the castles. One of the good things, the castles is left, and there are some frescoes, paintings over there, and then you can see what type of commander of faithful or Khalifatullah they were. And interesting, there are all pictures left, the Roman frescoes. And then he had some eye. Look, he's the one I'm not sure what he really wanted to do. He died sooner than what maybe his plans goes through. He is the one to twice attack Constantinople. You know, in ancient times they did twice, twice in Umayyads, and they give it up to Ottoman did it. So he did twice, and every time he wasn't successful. Some of the companions, one of the one of the big companions, Abu Ayyub Ansari, was in his army, died in the near. At least it's said near the Constantinople. So he wanted to capture that. And I saw an article, I couldn't read it, so I don't know what exactly said. The claim was, actually Iranian guy wrote it, the claim, and he's good. The claim is that he really has some intention to move the capital from Damascus to Jerusalem. And maybe that seems reasonable. If his political, if he survived longer, if he didn't get sick 20 years, and he lived longer, and he may have been successful to completely deviate the religion, move the capital to Jerusalem, and claim for himself a religious authority, maybe go to his bigger project, capturing Constantinople and be the ruler of the world. I mean, it is it's not unreasonable. But at least Prophet, you see, has no legitimate role. And the titulature of the Sufyanis suggests the same. The earth belongs to God and I'm deputy of God, as Muawiyah said to have put it. What the Prophet may or may not have been was not from this point of view any importance. And that's not, we know that what change, we see something changes after this. And that's exactly the uprising of Imam Hussain. If that uprising was not there, with all this power, with the passage of time, we see changes. You know, the first thing you cannot talk about eliminating, I don't know, I mean, when you have republic, you have a president. You cannot talk about not having president. Okay, so the same over there. You need time. You need time to people changes, and he was doing it. And then you see how with the money, with the ideology, with the planning he was doing. But the uprising of Hussein changed everything. Because after his uprising, you have the Mukhtar and Kufa uprising by Tababin, and then Zubair. Abdullah Zubair was ready and uprising Mecca. Abdullah Zubair noticed the weakness of Umayyad. The weakness is this lack of religiosity, Islamicity. Nothing about Islam or Prophet Muhammad. He immediately, you see, get that mantle for himself, get the turf for himself. He start to claim, okay, I am the true successor of Prophet Muhammad. We are the inheritors of his. This Umayyads are not. And then you see the name of Prophet just came back, but because of that uprising, and then Umayyads go interwars, and then gradually Abdul Malik Marwan noticed this cannot go that way. We have to change the course. So so we need at least a face cover of Islamicity. So that policy of Umayyads. And then the other thing, Marwanis were governor of Medina for the Marwanis with the Osman. Muawiyah was always either fighting with the Muslims in the time of Prophet, and then just immediately after that, 2-3 years after the passage of Prophet, he got the governorship of Syria. So even was not with the Muslims. In the Syria was always with the Christians, wife with the Christians, the tribal Christians. So you see, Muawiyah doesn't have anything. I mean, first he had the hatred. With the hatred, you cannot see, but he never raised among Muslims too. It was up in Syria from all 2, 3, 4. I mean, somewhere in the a little bit later, middle of Umar time. But Marwan was the governor of Medina, you know, before Imam Hussein, and so Marwanis know what the realities are, more pragmatic, and then they change the face. So you see, exactly. These are not my sentences. This is and then the only thing Patricia Kron doesn't say anything about Hussein uprising, doesn't say anything about the Kufa, Abdullah Zubayr, just says all of this course changed dramatically on the accession of Marwanis. 66 after Hijrah, 5 years after Imam Hussein martyrdom, the first known coin identifying Muhammad and Rasulullah was struck in Bishabur in Iran, and a pro-Zubayri governor, and then a message was repeated, another Arab Sasanian dirham struck at the same place, they made by a supporter of Umayyads. Look, sometimes they get old coins and then write on it. The same, you have beginning of revolution, we get the money or the things from before revolution, sometimes stamping on it, you know, so till they learn to do it. Therefore, thereafter, reference to Muhammad and Rasulullah became standard feature of Arab numismatics inscriptions from that then. And then at least Abdul Malik Marwan noticed, okay, you have to do something. You have to build mosque. You have to at least confront Christians. I think that must be one of the accusations. Yazid is more Christian and has more connection with the Christian Calvites to them. But okay, you know, these are the stuff. And this is a typical coin, you know, for example, I'm not sure, I couldn't read all, I don't know, just find a picture. It's an ancient one, but you see Muhammad Rasulullah is there on the coins. And then one other feature is this, for example, they said they learned to do more sophisticated coins soon. I mean, it doesn't take 20 years after Imam Hussein, now you have Muhammad Rasulullah. You know, these verses are there. There is no God but Allah alone. Muhammad Rasulullah, whom he sent with guidance and the religion of truth, he might make it victorious over all religions. Allah is one, Allah is everlasting. He did not begot, nor he was begotten. So some of the inscriptions are targeted against Christians. But the whole thing doing this is buying inner Islamic credentials. This is that Patricia doesn't say. This is to show with other Muslims, look, we are as Islamic. We are as good as Abdullah Zubayr. You know, the blue line says, however, at least this conclusion, however, the Sufyanis may have conceived of Muhammad al-Marwani, Maharwanis thus unambiguously identified him as the founder of the faith. They have to change the course. And that's exactly because of the uprising of Imam Hussein. So this is one of the features of it. Now, a little bit, we want to go to the detail, if I can do it faster, because this I say what happens, but they have a theory. They have a view of caliphate and prophethood. And actually, that's the most interesting one. We don't have the documents exactly from Muawiyah or Yazid, but there is a letter left in Tabari from a certain Umayyad, Marwani al-Walid II. He wrote to the garrison cities, Kufa, Basra, Wasit, stuff like that, the military barracks, Marv, to tell them who will be my successor. And when you discuss the successor, you discuss the succession too. That's the whole thing. For example, we have a transition from the leader to another leader. Also, the whole meaning of leadership comes through. And that's, we can call it Umayyad theory of state. And then look, I'm very briefly, I have to go through it. It says Al-Walid they divide, and this is Al-Walid, but this seems, as Patricia Krohn argued, this must be template in the administrative shelves. They take it out, copying it, adjusting it. The announcements are after a while settled down. So okay. So you can say this is the Umayyads view. Okay, they divided the history two parts: prophets' time and caliphs. Muhammad represents the culmination of prophethood and his death. The era of the prophet came to end. So they fixed it like this: Khatam al-Anbiya, prophethood ends. The era of the caliphs began. On the death of Muhammad, God raised up deputies or caliphs to administer the legacy of his prophets. They start like that. So the first thing, okay, he brought the law, he brought the sunnah, but we are the administrators. But then you will see, okay, things will go forward. The bulk of the letter is devoted to supreme importance of obedience to God's caliphs. Whoever obeys will flourish, and whoever disobeys will punish in both this world and the next, as we are told time and again. So you see that this Ahl Sunnah, Atiyu Allah wa Atiyu Rasul ulul amri minkum. Now they read it differently. Atiyu ulul amri minkum, ulul amri minkum. Without any qualification. That's the whole simple difference. You cannot. Okay. What is so striking about this letter, the caliphs are in no way subordinate to prophets. Look, even after Imam Hussain uprising, even after all these difficulties they have, this is a latter letter, but still the official ideology is like this. If Imam Hussain has an uprising, if the control was the hand of the Sufyanis, see what will happen. This is despite all these challenges, still they're like that. But they find a way, and I'm saying it could be influence of some Christian scribe, some Christian administrator, because some aspect of this theory is similar to the Christian two-sword theory. They have they assume that God have two swords, one is popes, one is emperors, but it's a latter theory. But at least there they recognize popes. Here the Umayyads prophet has passed away, so they are living, popes and emperors live side by side, but for Umayyads prophets are past, we are only here. So prophets and caliphs are alike, are seen as God agents, and both dutifully carried out the task assigned to them. Okay, prophet is here and caliphs here. The former by delivering messages, and latter by putting them into effect. The caliphs are the legatee of prophets in the sense that they administer something established by them, but they do not owe their authority to them. They do not owe their authority to the prophets, let alone to Muhammad, nor of the whole prophets, not individually. Their authority comes directly from God. In other words, formerly God used prophets, now he used caliphs. And the prophets are not here to say anything to them. At least the popes, emperors, one is there, the other one is there. So Muhammad is still a prophet with a small p, one prophet among prophets. Obviously, he was the prophet more relevant to valid, and his subjects being a successful messenger who worked among Arabs and who created a community of which God had now put Al-Walid in charge. But he was still one out of many, and he stood at the end of an era, not at the beginning of one. He was bygone. Messengers belong to the past. The present had been made over to caliphs. They're also reflecting the stories in which Umayyad governors and other credit God's deputy with a status higher than of God, his messenger. Oh, this is the trickery they play. So they start to narrate stories, maybe not in the official documents, but this way, that way, saying that, okay, we are two agents of God. This is happening in Europe too. Is popes higher or emperors higher? But naturally, popes are higher. We are the religious guy. But here they did reverse. Said God deputies are higher than his messenger by playing the word. What they said the caliphs is here giving the edge over the prophets on the ground, whereas a messenger simply delivers a message. A deputy is a representative, is authorized to act on behalf of his employer. And this sounds strange because it is clear that everyone knows better. What is being offered is simply clever argument. But they did that. Yani مثلا شما می messenger Rasul, okay, just brings a message. Any child, you have these pages in White House. They're 18 years old, 19 years old. They give the message, take from this room to the senator, or so on. This is page. They're now claiming messenger prophet is the page bringing some message, but representative, I have all the authority of the legal authority. I can vote or can do anything. So you see, by playing this word, they're pushing caliphs above the prophets. Again, the whole policy of going around the prophets, but more sophisticated way. And then you have this guy, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Saqafi. This guy is known for his cruelty, but he has some intellectual bent too, interestingly. Look, some of the rasm of Quran we owe to him. I think he added Alif Maksura. Alif Maksura doesn't change, Malika, but is used to write Malika. Mim lam ka, he put the alifs. It seems he has done something to the rasm of Quran. The dots came and the Fatah Kasra came later on, and then he has done something. We don't know, but that's not our case. He is the most cruel governor. And then look what he says. Come up some of his sentences, and then I have time 2 minutes maybe. Okay, Hajjaj of the opinion that those who circumambulate the time of Prophet Muhammad in Medina should rather go around the palace of Abdul Malik, since once the PUT is better than one's messenger. They ask this question whether you think your messenger is better, your deputy is better. But look, this one is interesting. They go even, they said God honored his caliph on earth over this messenger. The other one says, Hajjaj in another letter wrote, the heaven and earth exist only by the caliphates. And the caliphs in God's eyes are more favored than cherubim, the angels and the prophets sent. They sent down to earth and appoint him. So these all praises for the caliphs start to go around. There are many sentences this guy's made it. So you see what's going on. This is even you have that uprising. Later on, that uprising was not there. The project must have gone faster. Everything was wiped out. There was no name of Prophet Muhammad. You will hear Imam. Now, the only thing I want to do, go back in the last few minutes I have to show some examples what Muawiyah was doing. Because listen, Muawiyah knows he has to tweak or daskari become coming in the Sharia law everywhere she do, but he did small things. The first thing, you cannot say no prayer, or they cannot say, for example, some Shahada Muawiyah is the greatest prophet in the world. He was smart. You cannot go big. Go small changes, and people let them, the small changes the first time, how things deviate 20, 30, when a small change happens and then nobody says anything, then you have the next one, corruption. The first small one, the next one, the next one. So yeah, you have examples, some of it well. So let me go here. For example, this Al-Ghadir wrote, he's the one openly by Mashru Ribara Halal Shemort. I'm sorry, this is the only Farsi one I have. I go back to English one. This is very bad one. If he, this is the big one. Letting marrying two sisters simultaneously, changing the punishment. Yeah, the simple things. Changing the labbaiks in the time of the Hajj ceremony. And then another thing is that when you do prayer Jama'ah, there is a Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sometimes you say loud. He took it out. That is so. And then in Medina, he did it deliberately. And then all Sahabas go against him. And then he said, oh, no, are you sure? And then he was sure it's not right. And then Allahu Akbar, when we say Allahu Akbar is going such a ruku, he took it out. Look, there are simple things, but the whole thing, he wants to put a stamp. He said, I will decide. I will show you a good example. Jala Hadith. Okay, one of the cruel things is the cutting the heads and moving on this spears around. Amr ibn Hamaq Khazai, he did it. Amr ibn Hamaq was one of the great companions of Imam Ali, and this is the first one they cut their head. They did it, and then you see they repeat this in Ashura. And then one funny thing, we have this problem in Iran too. Look, when this Eid prayers we have, or the prayer is before a khutbah, and then very often people after a prayer finish to they don't stay for the khutbah, leave. Muawiyah didn't like that, and one other reason people used to leave because he was la'aning Imam Ali. So he switched the order. He first do the khutbah, and then like giving sham at the end, the food at the end, let the speech be the first. They give the sham at the beginning, nobody stay with the speech. So that's the same sort. So he is, okay. So this is This is old stuff he did. This is Farsi, I explained it. But the two I like is this. This one, I just find it, and actually was from Patricia Kron, the reference. This is Musannaf Abdul Razak, and this is very interesting. Look, there is a first thing, the hierarchy is Muawiyah is the Caliph, Marwan is the governor of the Aksum Hijaz, he's in Medina. And then there is a governor of a local area, Tahama, it's Yamama, is Usayd ibn Zahir. So three hierarchy. Muawiyah wrote to Marwan, Marwan wrote to Usayd ibn Zuhair, and Sayyid changed the rule. What was the rule? The rule Muawiyah says, if somebody has something and is stolen from him, and then he goes somewhere, see that a stolen thing, he can take it back. Okay, this brings a chaos, you know. I mean, it's true, maybe mine, but maybe it was stolen by me, sold to somebody else, and I didn't know it's stolen, and I buy it. Now it's with me, and then you come claim, how I know you're true, stuff like that. Usayd ibn Zuhair wrote back to Marwan, and Marwan wrote back to Muawiyah and said, look, this wasn't the Sunnah of Prophet, this wasn't the Sunnah of Abu Bakr, this wasn't the Sunnah of Umar, and the Sunnah of Osman. He doesn't mention Imam Ali, but definitely, most probably, it was a Sunnah of Imam Ali too, because Muawiyah didn't like this name of Imam Ali. But what was the Sunnah? Well, the Sunnah was said, Prophet said, look, if this has happened, either the guy who owned this really have to pay the money. If this guy who owns it, we are not sure is the thief, and we are not accused is the thief, we cannot just grab it because he paid money, he buy it, we have to find. Either you have to pay money, get it back, but tell the guy, okay, this was mine, stolen, the guy may be willing to sell it back, or you have to find the thief. That's the way. Okay, the detail is not important. The answer Muawiyah gives is important. فكتب معاوية إلى مروان إنك لست أنت ولا أسيد بن زهير بقاضين علي. Yet NATO neither you Usayd ibn Zuhair and no Marwan. You are not commanding me, ordering me, judging me. لكني أقضى فيما وليت عليكم. But it is me that order you in what I have been given authority over you. That means I say this, you follow. And then interestingly, the word Muawiyah used, wali, is the same word we have disputed. The wali is the authority, political authority. That's the one we have in Khutbah Qadir. All of a sudden you say, oh, wali means friendship. Okay, exactly. Fima walaytu alaykuma. Fanfiz lima amartuka bihi. Then Muawiyah tells what I ordered you do it. فبعث مروان إلى بكتاب معاوية فقلت لا أغزى به ما وليت. يعني بقول Muawiyah told him, okay, we have to do it. Okay, that was one interesting thing. And then I think I can stop on time. There is another one I find just because the other ones I know you know. This one was interesting. And interesting was accidental. It is Patricia Kron again commenting on it. Crony. It's Muawiyah. Look, this is the racism. This is Arab supremacy which was there and initiated by Umar. If people are this started from day one. Umar said Arabs shouldn't be slaves, so he bought all the Arab slaves. So Arabs, so Mawali are non-Arabs. You know, there's somebody Mawali or slave or something like that. This is another level. So Omar had an idea of Islam, of religion of Arabs, but Muawiyah didn't like that. Islam too, some new religion of Muawiyah for Arabs. It also says that, but this is from Kitab Sulayman Ghais. And that's definitely means is as a criticism of him. It also says that Muawiyah ordered the Arabs to marry non-Arab women, but not to let Arab women to marry non-Arabs. We don't have it Islamically. Or Shia, and to disallow inheritance from leaving the Arabs and not to give non-Arab women property or gifts. This is to keep money in the hands of the Arab tribes. So you see, this is so he started to just assert himself. Now small things, tomorrow I can do big things. I can remove some big position. In her analysis of this narration or change some big thing. In her analysis of this narration, Kron indicates that this is the mechanism where elites turn themselves into castes. And although it's not completely related to what we want. Notes that many tribal Arabs did in fact refuse to marry their daughters to non-Arabs. Of course, this mechanism is dependent on the notion that identity and social branding are transmitted patrilinearly. I mean, the commentary wasn't much related, but it's important to know that. So these two examples, I don't know. So what is the conclusion is, look, if Imam Hussain had an uprising, if Imam Hussain, at least somebody must say, okay, I don't give bay'ah, I don't recognize you. This would go forward indefinitely. Even, you know, when the other option, the discussions came, he said, let me go somewhere else, means I leave this Islamic land. That's, again, when some big Ayatollah leaves, for example, from one hawza, goes outside somewhere else, so means there's something not right. You know, this one guy, you know, said to Iran, I go from home to Najaf. So this is, at this, if Imam Hussain, look, the first thing he knows is doesn't bay'at. That's he started, and then they knew they not. Then he knew that they wouldn't let him not go that way, but he had no other way. And then history vindicates him. You know, ulama Sunni start. Okay, the last, maybe I said 1 minute. Yeah, I will stop with this. Look, Abdul Malik Marwan noticed he needs some Islamicity. So what he did, after defeating Abdullah Zubayr, yeah, 1 minute, I will stop. Abdullah Zubayr, what he did is this. He called the brother of the Zubayr he killed, Urwat ibn Zubayr, and his students, Ibn Shahab al-Zuhri, come to Damascus. Okay, we can work it out. Let's now start some Islamic Hadith, Islamic history. So the scholarship which was patronage of it was the caliphs, but Sufyani started to come up. So Sunni scholarship also adapted to the Imam Hussain uprising. That separation, I mean, later on also we see, you know, the whole separation, even because of Shia and fighting with the caliphs Abbasi times, the whole separation of scholars from the caliphs and separation of authority happened, is an outcome of it. So the conclusion is that Imam Hussain wasn't there, the name of Prophet wouldn't be there. We wouldn't hear him, we don't know about him, or it was a very completely different Prophet. Muhammad, like Jesus, now is a God which is not himself. So, yes, salawat you have.
No,
thank you so much, Dr. Ghoddousi. Enjoyed your speech. We have few questions, and I ask the audience, please type the questions, like either the private chat to me or to everyone through the chat. The first question is, what is the fundamental difference between Yazid and other Umayyads or Abbasid Khulafa? So the question is, what is special about Yazid?
Yeah, Yazid was the one very clearly, as the poem shows, go out against Islam, against you know, he praised his ancestor, he sided with those mushrikeen against bad. He was Muawiyah wasn't like that. Muawiyah keeps the cover. Muawiyah Yazid very clearly was out. You know, he was a kind of Aghazadeh. He thinks everything is okay, he can do anything. After Yazid, no ruler Islamic world was plainly can go against Prophet Muhammad or Islam. We have not anyone. Neither Saddam Hussein, nobody, no kings of Iran. So after Yazid, you don't have any ruler can dare go against Islam and Prophet Muhammad. We have not yet, except secularism grows in Iran, in Islamic land. So yeah, he was outrageously he messed up their plan. Actually, I can say. I mean, maybe he was too. He wasn't in the court. He was too cocky. He thought, look, if this poem, the first poem I read for you, which is this is real, because Khutbah Hazrat Zainab is responding to him. He cut him and say what you are saying. You're talking about bad, your ancestor, and then, you know, there's a beautiful khutbah. So that, yeah, he was very opening his intentions, saying very openly, you know, irreligiosity against Prophet Muhammad, because they thought they have the control, but they don't notice things are not as simple. Like this, look, Floyd George, look, people are racism here, not racism here, people are silent going, but somehow I think some sensitivity, the death of the man in front of the camera at least makes some people see, okay, things are not good. I mean, I'm not comparing, but Imam Hussain was much higher, at least goes to some of their consciousness. And then Tawabin, you know, I think Tawabin and Mukhtar are important too. You have 3,000 commander of army, they're legendary commanders of Futuhat. Suddenly they want to die to get repentant. You know, you don't see something like that every day. So these are legendary commanders of Futuhat, you know, so they were not so simply other simple people. Okay, I'm not sure if I answered correctly, but I think that's the answer. I mean, completely right.
Yeah, thank you so much. The second question is, what is the evidence that Yazid's mother was Christian? Was it I think tribe?
Yeah. That's very clearly known. Yeah, that's clear.
Evidence, and how do you see the influence of that, per se?
That needs more work, but I think, yeah, I need, I mean, for now we have superficial one, drinking, not caring about stuff like that. But yeah, I don't have, I need more. Yeah, right.
Because his father and his grandfather are enough to for like just
Yeah,
what is we don't need to have a bring a, like a Christian element in to say because he
yeah,
already has his father
yeah.
and his grandfather were already enemies like or at the enmity toward Prophet. So I think
Yeah, I understand, but you know, you feel sometimes, yeah, I mean, you see, the other thing I can say indirectly, the emphasized Marwanis start to make themselves against Christians, right? In Qul Allahu Ahad, stuff like that. Because Qul Allahu Ahad is really against the Christian belief, making the Dome of the Rock, although many of the constituents are Christian. I think they want to show the credentials, and I think the accusation must be there that you're too cozy with the Christians. You feel more comfortable. Like you know, you want to sound I'm religious. I'm not, for example, I'm not Westernized. I really, you know, I'm not with America. So I have, yeah, I mean, maybe because there are some other first people here maybe know better than, I mean, if some of the, yeah, this needs more serious, but I feel there is there. I mean, look, even the son-in-law of the Zayd ibn Haritha, which was son-in-law of the Prophet, again come from the tribe was Christian. Even maybe say the father was Christian. So the Christianity was much more spread than we think. And then the Bani Kalb was the backbone of the Umayyads for a long time. So they, in the fights with Imam Ali and later on, those Bani Kalb was supportive. And then there are, you know, so yeah, how much I felt the Christianity, I felt, you see, Muawiyah was leaving over there. So there was a Roman Empire, Byzantine palaces, Byzantine culture. So maybe he got some influence and he doesn't see the restriction with Christianity. Any restriction is not there. I mean, they don't care what you believe. You're right. I need more positive evidence. So inshallah, yeah, if somebody has, or I need, yeah, maybe you can put it up. You're right.
Thanks. The next question is that is the narration attributed to Yazid after the Ashura correct that there was no revelation and Muhammad was no prophet but just Banu Hashim seeking supremacy over Bani Umayyad?
Yeah, kind of the poem was like that, and the idea yeah, that's also some, yeah, that's the same similar type of thing. Yeah, it seems authentic. And the one I showed you, I really check it. You know, it's actually the one I showed you, the English one, is from Tahir Qutbuddin. You know, she's a professor at the University of Chicago. She was looking to oratory. All the references were there. The references of Sunni and Shia. I mean, Yazid is very unanimously condemned. You know, he's the one which really but yeah, that's like that. Look, a similar idea is from Omar. Actually, was one sentence too. Not the idea. Omar says that prophecy and Khilafah and Mulukiyah, Arab doesn't let you to have both prophethood and Mulukiyah in Bani Hashim. But then you see for Yazid, stuff like that, this was a game. You know, those guys were played smart, bring a prophet. He didn't believe in Prophet Muhammad. He said just a smart trickery, and now we overcome them and we don't need them. But, you know, things, although his father advised him. And, you know, look, the advisor, that the one Muawiyah give the, the will and testament, advised him to, you know, to consult him. The one was Christian too. I'm not saying is per Christian, but this is the one told, give the advice, don't go against those four, you know, Imam Hussain, Umar, Abdullah, Umar, Abdurrahman Abu Bakr, I think wasn't alive, Abdullah Zubair, how to treat Abdullah Zubair, how to treat Abdullah Umar, how treat Imam Hussain. So I think, and then administrators, but it needs more. I mean, look, the other side, there are many Christians. We have the Sabah Imam Hussain, Zuhair Gain was a Christian. We have Christians in the court, which when the Saud's happening, joined to Imam Hussain as of Shahada. So it's not that thing, but I'm thinking he want to model his empire like a Byzantine one, and although he want to capture Constantinople, or at least by moving capital with Jerusalem, he really can claim universal status. And then one other thing, maybe fast. Look, this importance of Jerusalem, it is important, but I don't want to put it down. But some of the hadiths were made, or importance was stressed is the time of this war between Abdullah Zubair and Abdullah Malik Marwan. And then because Zubairis had to control Medina, Mecca, and the people in Syria cannot go Hajj. So the idea was said, okay, you can go instead of Mecca and Medina for the Hajj over there going to Jerusalem. You know what I mean? So you have a sanctity in new places. I'm not saying Jerusalem is not important, but you see some of the stories over there are mixed. So yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, sorry.
So the next question is that if you go to Syria, you will see that some people there respect Muawiyah. Very likely that goes back to some roots in the history that cannot be said about Yazid. So Yazid doesn't have local respect there, but Muawiyah still has some local respect among some Sunnis.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. That's true. But you know, you see the strange forms of Salafisms are growing. For example, Sheikh Tijani Samawi said that he went to India and the masjid they're sending blessing for Yazid. There are some people, yeah, you have that, I don't check who's are here, but we had an Abu Sufyan person yesterday, 2 days ago in the chat room. You know, he asked a question. The question was that whether Yazid was morally right to, by doing that, by keeping the unity of Ummah. You know, so he wants to kind of clean up the story. So you see some trend. I mean, traditionally Sunnis, yeah, they condemn that. I mean, Sunnis have been up and down. The Sunnis form in Abbasid area, which is most a classical area. They're very affiliated with Shia, other stuff. You know, this long story. I mean, there are up and down which Sunnis and stuff like that. But recently in Salafism, there are some trends to rehabilitate Yazid too. Not many. I mean, if they're educated, but always they doesn't get the loudest voice. So some louder voice. I mean, Tijani was saying that they start to send blessing for Yazid, and I noticed things are dangerous. I thought they want to, I say something and then kind of make a confrontation. I left. I was going to talk. I noticed it's getting dangerous. I left. So he felt threatened. So you know, yeah, he's right. The question is right, but you have to know some new trends are coming out too.
thank you so much, Dr. Ghoddousi,